Welcome to my tutorial on Do You Know Where You're Going To? From the movie Mahogany, beautifully sung by Diana Ross. Marion in Welland, Ontario sent me a comment regarding this very song that I posted last month. She says, and I quote, "I listened a few times to your arrangement and I'm wondering if you chose all those key changes." Well, Marion, it's not unusual for me to jump around changing keys. However, this time, not guilty. I have heard different arrangements of this song, but after listening to the Diana Ross version, I had to incorporate their key changes into my arrangement. The use of equal division of the octave is used in this song. It's a great musical device that I will explain near the end of the tutorial. Please remember, I am not providing a how to play video. There are plenty of those available on YouTube. What I will be discussing is how melodic and harmonic elements interact with one another. The Diana Ross arrangement is mainly in 3 flats, E flat. The harmony structure of the song is fairly straightforward. The verse only has 4 bars and 5 different chords. There is one chord, however, that is not diatonic to the key, a device you've heard me refer to many times called tonicization. However, this particular chord is crucial to the overall structure and, of course, the success of the song. First, I will show you these changes in C before moving the tutorial into E flat, just to make it a little easier for you to follow. So it starts on the 1 chord. In this case, we're in the key of C at the moment, so the 1 chord would be C. Then it moves to the 4 chord F, 1, 2, 3, 4. Back down to the 2 chord D minor. And instead of the 3 chord, which would be E minor, this is the tonicization I was talking about, E7. We've made that a dominant chord, and that becomes the 5 of A. Could be A major or A minor. However, in this case, the 6th chord is A minor, so therefore it's the 5 of A minor, the 5 of 6, if you will. The 6th chord then moves down to the 4 chord, and then drops onto that dominant E7 that'll take us to A. Now here we are in E flat. I'm going to slow the tempo to make it easier for you to follow. I will also be placing the chord syllables and their respective numbers up here. So let's get into the verse. The introduction leads us onto the 1 chord, E flat. In this case, E flat major 7. And I'll be discussing the introduction in a moment. But very quickly it moves to the 4 chord on the 3rd beat, so therefore it's 1 and 2 and 3. Here we go. Notice the first time it was 5 of 6 going to the C minor. The last time I'm on the G7 takes us into the C. There is our authentic cadence, a 5-1. And we're no sooner into the key of C, and the composer takes us right back in E flat. So every time a new verse starts, we get an uplift. Now in the Diana Ross version, the arranger sometimes uses a different chord progression near the end of a given verse. I'm just going to go over what I just did, and then I'll give you a couple of other alternatives. So we were on the 6th chord, C minor, in the key of E flat. Up 3, which is a secondary movement. You can feel the pullback. Up 2 to the 2 chord, primary movement. Up 2 to the G7 and into C. Now that was pretty well working its way up. We can go the other direction and just have a descending bass line. one is very similar to the first one that I did, but a nice little twist here. Now I'm playing the 2 chord, but I'm playing it in a first inversion, so the minor third, the A flat, is hovering just above that G dominant chord that we want to take us into C. Well, let's take a look at the bridge. So as you know, coming out of the verse, we are moving into the key of C. And we're going to stay in the key of C for the duration of the bridge. So that C chord now, the 1 chord, moves to a D7 over C. That's a 3rd inversion. It's a dominant chord, it has an F sharp in it. So we know it's not diatonic to the key of C, so this must be tonicization. So it's D7 is the 5 of G, so we just call that a 5 of 5. You know, I should point out here, whenever you have a 5 of something, could be a 5 of 2, 5 of 5, 5 of whatever, and the chord is in a 3rd inversion, that's the 7th at the bottom, it provides an open, airy Lydian feeling. John Williams used this chord many times in his compositions, like when it's used that way, it's known as a Lydian 2. Anyway, moving right along. C is going to fall to the B minor 7, onto the 3 chord, E minor 7. We want to now head to the 2 chord, D7, but let's use a little tonicization. So we do a 5 of 2, A7. Now on the 2, to the 5 chord, and onto the tonic 1 chord, C. Plagal cadence, 4-1, F to C. The second half of the bridge continues using most of the same chord progressions with a slightly different melodic line. Now we're going to go up to the 6th chord. To the 5 of 5, a D9. That's going to take us to the dominant 5 chord, but we'll use a suspension here and resolve, and then the composer just leaps right back into the main key, called an abrupt modulation. And into the next verse. We know that if we play in E flat, it's going to take us to C at the end of the verse. So why not go backwards and go up 1.5 tones to G flat. 6 flats, and if I start in that, I know that that's going to take me to E flat, which is where I want to play the song anyway. And that's exactly what they did. First verse. The song comes into the final coda, and that's a elongated coda. They use a device called equal division of the octave. It does work on the same premise that I showed you with the introduction starting 1.5 tones above. So we are playing in the key of E flat, and we know that's going to take us to C. But what if I started playing in C? Well, that's going to take us down 1.5 tones, and we're going to end up on A. And if we started playing in A, that's going to take us down 1.5 tones to G flat, which is where we started our introduction. In this case, it would take us to the end of the song. So when I stack that up, I've got an equal division of the octave. The E flat falls to the C falls to the A, and the A falls to the G flat, and G flat will take us back to E flat. Looks like a C diminished 7, but it's made up of 4 sets of 1.5 tones. 1.5 tone to E flat, 1.5 tone to G flat, 1.5 tones to A, and 1.5 tones to C. Now this is a long drawn out coda, but this is what they do in the Diana Ross version. We're coming in to C, but they're going to stay in C. And then it rolls around, and now we're coming into A, and we stay in A. That's going to take us into G flat. And well, I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Time does not permit me to play the song through in context, so I'm hoping you'll take the time and view my arrangement of Do You Know Where You're Going To? If you're a first-time subscriber, welcome. So until next time, keep well, keep safe, and be happy.